All right, here we are, Facebook world. We are back where Haley is back with a wheelbarrow full of mud. Happy as a construction worker, full of dirt and mixing mud. So Haley, why concrete?
Why concrete?
Why do you like working with concrete?
I don't really have an answer for that. I just enjoy it. I enjoy all the possibilities that it creates. Looks cool when it's finished.
So it looks like there's a bottom in the swimming pool as well.
Yes, there is. We did that yesterday, the hard bottom. It's finally mostly complete. Al just has to put the in-floor fittings in and then we'll patch around it and the hard bottom will be officially done and ready for others to scrape.
Nice. Scraping hard bottom, not your favorite part?
No. I'm sure you guys all know I do not like scraping hard bottom. I think it's boring. Other people on their crew enjoy it a lot, like Annie, Al's wife, really enjoys it, so she can come every single day and scrape it for all of us.
When you are referring to it, I noticed that you're using the word hard bottom because we use that a lot in our company. Do you know where that term came from and why when you go to like our distributor, SCP, they'll be like, hard bottom? What are you talking about?
I don't know where it came from, but I do know that I have to ask for vermiculite when I go to SCP because I'm sure they know now that's what we call it, but before when I asked for it once, I had to say vermiculite and then they got like, oh, I know what you're talking about, but you'd have to ask Al why we call it that because I don't know.
Well, I know why. Fun trivia, because we were at one of the Canadian pool shows and I heard somebody referring to it as hard bottom. And I asked, so is that what you commonly refer to it here in Canada? Which the answer was yes. So because Al started building Cafco pools when he began his career, it was a Canadian company at the time and they've since been bought out and they are in the US, but that would be why the term hard bottom has stuck with our company because we have like our roots in the pools from Canada, Cafco, Canada.
So why did they call it hard bottom though?
I think it just had to do with the different mixes and things like that.
Hold on, the mix is gonna die.
Wow, look at that, folks. Just from standing over here, she's listening to the cadence of that background noise. And I do believe she identified that it's almost out of gas. Look at that, indeed. Looks like we're filling it up. All right, looks like we have some high-speed action happening in the spa hot tub. We won't call it a jacuzzi because that's a trademark name. Yeah, so action.
Here's a fun little tool. I don't know if most people know about this, but it is to cut a pipe from the inside out. So when you're in a tight spot and need to cut, you have a little blade here that you stick on the inside of the pipe and cut out and then follow it in a circle. And like I just cut this piece, stuck through, and cut it from the inside out.
Huh,
which in the past we would always have to try to grind it, do everything we could, hand cut it, and now we have tools to do it. That's just a standard tool. It's a Home Depot plumbing tool right there.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right, so I see there is tile on our spillover. Tell me about
Tile on a spillover?
tile on a spillover. Is there more to it than just slapping tile on a spillover and making water spill? Like, what are some of the factors that influence, I guess, the amount of spill, the spill quotient?
The tile on the spillover is probably the most important tile that you set on the swimming pool. Because to do a spillover, the intention is to create a sheet of water. Well, this has to be as perfect as possible so that when your water comes off, it doesn't hang to the edge. If this was higher here and lower here, the water would pool to this side. If it was higher here, it would pool to this side. This has to be nice and level so that the water, when it comes off, pulls off in a sheet. And as it pulls off in a sheet, as the water sheets, surface tension pulls it together. So it's really thin up here. The water as it's falling is a thin layer of water, but as it hits as it falls, it gets narrower and narrower and thicker. The water balls up. So if it's this far wide at the top, it's a good inch less at the bottom when it hits the water. And it's just surface tension of water pulling it together. It's just kind of one of those fun facts. Those kind of weird but quirky fun things. It's something you learn about water.
I know Kaylee's working on the different places for the water to fall, and that's something else I know we've talked about before. You have a definite way that you like to make the water fall compared to maybe a more, I don't know if you want to call it engineered water falling or something like that. Would you tell me about your style?
Well, we've come a long way from our early waterfalls to now, when we've learned a lot of cool little tricks. I like them to be more fountains than waterfalls, meaning it's a mixture of an architecture as well as a bunch of rocks. Because most waterfalls that are built are a bunch of rocks piled up on top of each other, and you just let the water flow over it, which, while it's okay, it's less interesting than having a bit of an architectural piece where there's some stone in the waterfall that matches the veneer on the spa, which matches the veneer on the walls, on the retaining walls and things. And we like to try to make it something unique and not just something that you could just hire a guy that stacks boulders together. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but they become very normal when you do that. Doing it this way, it allows us to mix carved concrete with stone veneer with big slabs of flagstone. This happens to be a Chilton stone that we're using as the veneer and as the slab. And the beauty with that is you get a lot of interesting nooks and crannies, and you get a nice sharp edge. The key to make the water fall properly is a knife edge, a nice sharp edge where as the water is going out, it can't cling to the rock. If you use a rounded edge like these edges here that we use for the bluestone, if that was a waterfall edge, the water would want to cling to the wall, and instead of sheeting off, it would cling to the wall and then drop. But we want that nice sheet, and to do that, you need a really crisp, sharp edge. And we get a really crisp, sharp edge like that, the water hits that edge, and it can't hang on because it's not rolling down. It loses itself to gravity and falls right off the edge of the stone. And that's what really helps to create that. We're not looking for sheets, but we're looking for interesting patterns of water falling, rushing off of something versus dribbling down the face of it.
Okay.
And those are, again, just a few things we've learned. Certainly, when you work in a lot of concrete, you have issues with efflorescence. You have calcium that's pulled out of the material over time. And what we found is the more natural stone that we let the water fall off of, the less likely we're going to get efflorescence. In the past, we had a lot of our carved stuff that was interacting more with the water, and that would tend to draw a lot of calcium out of the surface, and you'd get a lot of white streaks and calcium streaks in the waterfall, which are still okay, and they look pretty natural, but overall they take away the effect of a really well done colored waterfall if there's white streaks in it.
Okay.
And that's a natural process of concrete. It's called efflorescence, and it's not something you can avoid. It happens on the side, the mortar and the brick on the side of the house. You'll see white streaks down it. That's just efflorescence.
Cool. Looks like we have some action over here with Kaylee.
Go for it.
I'm going to go see if we can get some concrete plopping blobs.
Boy, come here.
So what's the method that you're using here, Kaylee?
I'm putting mud down and I'm setting these brick down. We ran out of cinder block, and instead of only going to get like 5 cinder block, we had these brick on the job, and it'll give us enough height for our next stone to sit on. So if we take into consideration the mud bed and then the thickness of the stone, it'll be like up to here. So that's a good enough drop there. And then we're going to be putting another tier here. So right now I'm kind of just backfilling to make it all level, and then we'll set another stone on top of it. yet, so I'll be back.
Well, folks that are tuning in to watch our live, if you recall, Sandy is a big advocate of one of our contests resulting in getting to work with one of our team members for the day. If you get Kaylee, I mean, this looks like a pretty good day to work with Kaylee. It's not like a day that you're pushing a big heavy wheelbarrow coming off a truck and you need speed. So, you know, you could end up forming some parts of a waterfall, or yeah, you could end up with the heavy lifting, one or the other. You could end up with Al and have purple, blue, and primer, or the ever popular request that we get all the time, can I please go shovel with Zach? Hi, Zach.
Hi.
What are you working on?
Trench for the skimmer lines.
Okay. Some people might ask why you're doing it by hand and not using a machine like a trencher.
It's fun. Builds character.
Okay. Spoken like a guy that likes to shovel. If I were shoveling, I would not be saying the same thing. So is there a technique to shoveling? So pretend that somebody has never shoveled before in their life. How would you instruct them, like, how to shovel?
Keep it a little bit wider than the shovel, so your shovel doesn't get stuck down in the trench while you're trying to scoop dirt out of there. And
So this is pretty hard ground, it feels like. Is it hard ground before you get underneath it?
yeah,
And so how do you work through that?
jump on the shovel, stab it in the ground.
All
If
right.
you can't, kick any rocks and stuff out of the way.
Well, let's let you give us a show and tell here. So take the shovel. Is there a specific name for the shovel that you have?
Spade.
It's a spade. He has a spade, folks, and so he's spearing it into the ground. Oh, and then he's jumping. Sounds like he hit something there. Oh, what did we find? Oh, it's a rock. That, when Zach's turn to do the prize, Zach could paint us a scene on that lovely rock. It could become a prize.
I'll save that rock right there.
Or the prize could be shoveling for a day with Zach. And so he's doing that, and then, so what's the term for this motion that you're doing now? Like, once the dirt's on the shovel, like, what would you call that?
Scoop and dump.
Scoop and dump the dirt, folks. You heard it here first. Awesome. Thanks for playing along, Zach.
Of course.
All right, and let's check out our equipment pad because, yeah, this is super fun. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we have going on here with the equipment pad. We have R2-D2. This is a relatively short R2-D2. The key with these is it needs to be above the water level in the pool. So all of these valves coming into it, you've often seen these a little higher up in the air, and the pipes and the valves vertical. In this case though, because our equipment pad, I'll show you the layout of the equipment to the pool, which is right over there. Like, this is a good height and all that it needs to be to accommodate what we need. The other benefit of having the equipment pad level with the pool is when you are priming your pumps, it won't be as much of a challenge. I'm really not as good with grade as Al is, so I couldn't tell you if this pad is exactly level with the pool or if we have a little bit of a change, but There we go. That's what I know. What else do I know? I know that our gas guy was here, Jeff and his team with AG Gas. They ran this line. It looks like we're already hooked up with our Jandy JXI 260 heater. And this is a pressure test. So once they install the line, I know that they need to measure, make sure that it maintains pressure, no leaks, and that will be inspected. Once that's inspected, that pressure gauge will come off and a plug will be put in its place. We've got some pretty big plumbing heading over here to our equipment. We have two pumps. We have a main pump, which will run the main filtration system for the swimming pool, as well as when the hot tub is running, it will be running that as well. The second pump is strictly for the waterfall. It will boost our flow when we need that. So we will have pipes hooked up to these valves coming in, typically 2 for the skimmers, 1 for the main drain. The valves will be automated. Right now, you can see it's a mechanical looking valve with this nut on the top that if you ever needed to switch the rotation, you'd loosen that, you'd move this where you need it. You could tighten it down, but then that makes it harder to spin. Once we get the automation put on this equipment pad, then the mechanical piece will set right on top of this and it will do the turning for us as far as switching from pool mode to spa mode. When we asked Mark what is the equipment that he wanted on this pool, he said Jandy. He wanted the Jandy Stealth variable speed, and we got the Jandy ancillary for the waterfall. We've got our Aqua Pure salt cell, various other things connecting into the heater, and the filter, big tank right there. We also are going to be using glass media. We like putting glass in our sand filters. It has been keeping our pools really, really clean. All right, if there's anything else that you would like to see or have us talk about when we go live on a future day, let us know. Any final thoughts? Team Kaylee and Zach, anything else that inquiring minds want to know or should know about this pool?
Stay tuned, you'll find out.